Heather.
I'm Victory.
And I'm Stephanie. And today we're going to be talking about three things that shape us as parents.
Okay.
Go for it.
It's hard to boil it down to three things because I think there's so much more than three things.
Mm.
But I will say that support is a big factor of one
Absolutely.
of it.
Massively,
I
yeah.
have a really good support system, and if I didn't have that support system, I think my parenting would be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I think my mental state would be completely different.
Yep.
And I actually think the way my daughter, because she's an amazing little girl, I think she might be completely different as well.
As a result of
yeah,
lack of support.
as a result of the support. I'm very lucky in the fact that she has a strong male figure. It's not her dad, but she has a strong male figure. She has. I have got my parents. I've got amazing friends, and they all chip in where I might be slacking. If that makes sense. So,
would you say slacking, or maybe like you're just a bit exhausted and
not
it's time for them to
slacking,
tag team with you?
it is sort of a tag team thing.
Yeah.
But there are certain areas of I'm not perfect, so there are certain things that I'm just not good at.
Yeah,
but my other friends can pick up on that when it comes to my daughter. So in terms of, I'm Nigerian, but I was raised and born here, so I'm very westernized. So in terms of culture, it's a good thing that I have my parents to install all that Nigerian culture into my child. Otherwise, she'd be straight British. And
That's interesting because my parents helped teach my son to speak Arabic. So my background, I'm half Egyptian, half Sudanese. His dad is half Bajan, half Jamaican, and I speak Arabic fluently. But as much as I try to teach him Arabic, it's not my natural mother tongue to speak it. So just being raised around my his grandparents, he now understands Arabic and speaks bits of Arabic, and I'm just like, I couldn't have done that without them. So I definitely agree with you on that one. What about yourself?
I think especially we're talking about the language thing as well. It's quite similar in with my son that he learns not just Yoruba because I'm also Nigerian as well, but British Sign Language, which is what I know. So it's just really incredible.
What caused you to teach him that?
So my mum, she works in a special educational needs school, and she obviously knows BSL. So I was like, okay, well in that case, Mum, could you please incorporate? And he every morning once he comes downstairs to see his grandma, he's like, good morning and everything. It's so beautiful to see, honestly. So you were talking as well about male figures. I think especially being a single parent, that's one thing I always kind of it got to me. You know, it was always at the back of my mind, and I was, like you said, I'm very thankful for the support system I have as well. My older brother, I call him my big little brother because he's 20, he's younger than me, but he's 6'7". Like he's So he's a beautiful male figure for my son, and he loves being on call and playing with him and everything. It's the best feeling. So I completely resonate with you on that one for sure.
No, I agree. I think support is pivotal. I think you can. So I'm very grateful for the support that I have. I have family. My parents, they're just raised me to sort of unconditionally. It's automatic. It's a no-brainer to look out for one another. So to them, it was very automatic and a no-brainer for them to take over, I guess, the parenting when I went back to work. So I was on maternity leave for like a year, and then they literally held him down for 2 years. Well, as in not literally full time, but as in like when I'm at work, then it was never a burden, never a stress. But then I am gonna be honest and say the times they couldn't hold him, it's like whoa, I realized how much I need them. Because the minute they say they can't, I've not had my son with anyone else. So it's just like, how do I deal with the fact that actually it's just me alone in the situation? Like his father's present, but obviously it's set times that he sees him, so the flexibility isn't there. So I think the lack of support at times, due to their own like personal reasons, like it's not as if they're just kind of cutting me off, but it kind of makes you think, crap, like I really do need them, and like it kind of reminds me of how much like family is important to me. And that's something maybe we take for granted. Like we assume our parents we've got them all the time. It's just like, you'll look after him, and they're just like, actually no, I can't. I got a doctor's appointment. I'm just like, oh snap, that changes everything.
I think I've become more grateful when I see. Sometimes I have friends who are single parents as well. They don't have the same sort of support system I have, and it's not until I see their struggles I'm like, damn, I got it good. Like
exactly.
If I need to go out, there's no childcare lacking in my life whatsoever. I've got my parents, my partner's parents, her godparents. Like there's always someone there, and I realized I take that for
you do take it for
granted.
Absolutely. And I think it's easy as human beings to complain a little bit or like dwell, and we're just like, oh, but this is so stressful, this is so hard. And it is, you're allowed to, you're entitled to feel negative and to feel like maybe a little bit of self-doubt or whatever and feel sorry for yourself. But then you do have to also humble yourself and go, do you know what, it could have been a lot worse. And I think that's what humbles me a lot. It's just like, it could have been a lot worse. Like, be grateful for what you have. But in regards to father figures or male figures, I think I agree. You don't necessarily have to have, I mean, I'm grateful that the father of my child is present in his life, but I will always encourage more male role models in his life. So my brother, my brother-in-law, any male friends that I have that are, I guess, pivotal in our relationships. And I think people shouldn't see it as like some guys are just like, oh, you know, if it's not my child, or if it's not, no one can teach my child anything. It's just like, actually, you'll be surprised because you can learn different characteristics and different things, even subconsciously being surrounded by positive role models. So I think, finding a positive male role model is vital, because as much as women, we're strong within ourselves, we're forced into independence and we're forced to just handle business. There's certain stuff that no matter how much we try and shape our children,
they need them.
They need.
They do.
Yeah.
I think that's when you were talking earlier about like there's some place where one may like not lack, but just the experience might not be there. So that's when you can kind of, you know, use like, you know, the male figures in their lives to kind of be that support system. And I think for me as well, it's so weird. Like, I am grateful, but sometimes, like you said, we take it for granted. But you know, when there's always that moment when it really hits you, is when someone physically, they said to me, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of you that you're able to have your family to like, you know, be there for your child anytime. And you know, and it's like, and it really, I had like a lump in my throat. I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this is, I didn't realize how lucky I had it as well. So it always gets to me.
I think also because we, like you said, we take things for granted in the sense that even family values, stuff that we've embedded from a young age, we automatically think everyone's the same, and we automatically think that parents will always support you. But we also don't realize that some parents have their own mental health issues or have their own, you know, their own like just external stuff that you as a child can't control. So you can't force the grandparent to get involved, or they might be full-time workers themselves. So it's just like, it might not be necessarily a negative thing, but I think definitely we assume, or I personally assumed, that it's just automatic. The grandparents take the child, and people are like, no, my child's been in like nursery from 6 months. I'm like, what? And then like to me, it's nothing negative to them, but it's couldn't imagine just, it. Because to me, it's just like, we're raised that we look after our parents, and the parents look after the grandchildren, and it's just the way it is. And it is very humbling when you kind of take it in and you go, yeah, I'm actually in a great position, despite how hard it feels at times. As far as support, that's something I can definitely say I don't lack in. I think the other issues that we discussed, like, for example, finance, that's when it really bothers me, because I'm just like, I'm trying to stretch like myself, one person, and I'm trying to look after myself, my child, my house, and everything else. And that's where I think finance is definitely a factor, not the only factor, but one of the biggest factors for me when it comes to raising my child. How do you guys feel about that?
I feel the same. I think, you know, when people say money doesn't buy happiness, but I can 100% promise you, if I was a millionaire, not that I'm not doing a great job now, but I'd be able to offer my child so much more, so much more. So I do think finances does play a part into how you parent. I wouldn't say I'm struggling. I think I'm okay. If I was struggling, I do think the way I parent would be different, because rather than putting my all into her, I might be worrying about money. Where's the next food going to come from? How am I going to pay rent? And then because you're worrying about that, you're not worrying so much about parenting. And then that's where you start to default on how you parent.
Yeah, I think also based on what you just said, sorry, to go back to your point of if you had £1 million, things have been different. I think also you've got to bear in mind that you have been in a position where you felt what it meant to not have money, or not have money, but not to have an excessive amount of money, i.e. my position. And also, you know the importance of substance and quality time with your children. So whereas some people, I think, who have too much money, they throw money at kids, but they don't invest into their minds and their spiritual. So I think £1 million to you means a lot in regards to creating opportunities of happiness. because you appreciate the value of money and you also appreciate the importance of family values. Whereas some people who are born into wealth are just like, yeah, my dad just buys me a Rolex.
But you don't see your dad.
I guess you could use the money to, I suppose, to buy resources which can help them in the long run. Because even for me, when I had my son, I was in a point where I was like, okay, what do I actually do with my life? And then that's kind of when I had that wake up call, and I was like, I need to get back into school. So I had my son like May 2016, September 2016. I was back doing my degree. I was straight into it. So, and I was like, because I knew that obviously we all wish we could live in a utopian world where money isn't everything. It's all like love. If you shower your kid with love 24/7, that's it. It's not like that. It's sadly, but I feel like it's important to also kind of factor in the fact that sometimes having a certain amount of money or being financially stable for your children is very important for them, especially when they go into like big school and stuff, and then you get kids going on school trips and that costs, and it starts to go on the trips. You really do. It's very educational. So I mean, why not? If you have the money, then you should be absolutely. Or if you would, if you want to, work hard to, provide that for kids, then by all means, that should be encouraged.
I agree. 100%. I like so. To me, if someone asked me the question, does money bring you happiness? I said, I don't think money equals happiness, but I think money eases opportunities for happiness, i.e. like less barriers, less issues to be concerned about. And I can tell you, but in regards to like working hard and stuff, I know whenever I used to walk into an interview, cause when I became a single mom, I realised like, I'm doing this by myself. Like as much as the dad's there, I can't depend on him financially to consistently provide anything, and it's all on me now. Everything that was split by two is now on me by myself. So I used to go walk into job interviews and I put so much pressure on myself going, this is an opportunity to provide for my son, this is an opportunity to better my life. So I'd walk in and I'd give myself so much anxiety that I'd almost like, I can't see people in front of me. Like I built myself up and pressure just to be a better provider for my son. Like to me, it's like, I only work for my son. I only do this for my son. It's just, you just want them to have the best life. Like you said, you want to take them to school trips and these things. When I see them coming through at work, in school, I'm like, another bill. Another cost. It's like, today it's £3, tomorrow it's £2. And like for them to dress in this, I'm like, why do they have to pay all this money all the time?
And it all adds up.
Yeah, literally. And when I see them, I don't look at them and be like, oh, that's cool. I always think, oh, crap. Because the reality is that £10, £15 or £20 or £30, whatever it is I'm paying, but because in schools it's consistently something coming up, it's just like I didn't account for this, so my finances don't stretch to this. But at the same time, like sometimes my parents will be like, but here's the money, just let him go on this trip or let him do whatever. But I want to reach a point, hopefully, where I can provide for my son, where I don't have to turn to anyone. Do you know what I mean? But whether that's going to happen, I can only keep thriving, and that's what I've been doing. Like since having my son, I've just tried to better myself. Because as much as my parents want to support me financially where possible, I know that I used to also look after them to a certain point financially, so they're stretching themselves just to sort of compensate for me, because they know how much it affects my well-being. But at the same time, it's just like, I just want to get to the point where I can go back to looking after them and I can actually provide my son without looking at my bank balance beforehand.
Exactly,
It's just like, let me enter my PIN and pray for the best.
That's literally me every week.
And I literally watch it go, approved. You're free. But I don't want to feel that way. Do you know what I mean? And that then, because I want my child to walk into any shop and be like, Mum, I really want this, and I can be like, no. But then if they throw a tantrum, we can negotiate and find another toy, and then I can actually do that without worrying about, okay, so that's like 2 weeks of my wage is gone. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to have to worry about these things. I think it puts a lot of pressure, like I said, my anxiety, which is also basically mental health. So it's like, I think everything just plays a part of one another. But yeah.
And do you think that pressure would be different if you and your son's father were still
together?
Absolutely.
I think automatically when you're with, it depends. So as far as toxicness of the relationship, no. So as far as my son's happiness, no, that would have been completely taken away. My son's an extremely happy child. Anyone that meets him goes, your son's energy is ridiculous. I think we've discussed this before, and it's just like, I'd never want to like take that away. That to me is priceless. But I think as far as finances, childcare, because even if he's not actively going, I'll take him out, he can still hold him when I run and have a shower, or go to Asda and come back. I don't have to worry about all these things where I need to pop out for an hour. It's just like, oh, he will take my child. Anyone? So I think to an extent, yes, but as far as long-term well-being, it's not worth it. So I'd rather take this mindset and this situation and work on myself than having to work on myself, my child, and someone else.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
What about you guys? Ask the same question back.
I think, do you know what? I'm not with my daughter's dad, but I don't consider myself a single parent, only because my partner is so involved financially, mentally, physically.
That's amazing.
So when I look at my situation and I compare it to other people, I'm like, I'm not a single parent, am I? Because if I can't afford something, I ask him.
That's amazing.
And he gets it. If I need a rest, I ask him.
But that's support.
Yeah, and that is support. So I don't. My friends call me a single parent, but I actually don't refer to myself as a single parent because I think it's actually a bit rude.
It takes away from what he does.
Yeah, and it takes away from what I do. Then it takes away from someone who actually is a single parent, like you. Our situations are a lot different. So I wouldn't want to take away from what you do as a single mother. If that makes sense.
I mean, his dad's present. He's there.
Oh, yeah, he's present. Okay, maybe some of my other friends who's...
I'm in
a situation where the father is literally like,
okay.
Where is he?
So I wouldn't want to take. I wouldn't want to take away from what you do as a sole single parent.
And I can understand. Yeah, and
so
I can respect that.
I don't call myself
a
single mother because it takes away. But so I don't know my financial situation. Would it be different if her dad was involved? Yeah, probably, because then I have that extra help from him as well.
I was going to say, actually, in your situation, would it be different if you didn't have your current partner involved?
Oh, 100%.
Because obviously your partner is like really hands-on, like
100%.
role model, financially, emotionally, and that's amazing. I think all of our situations, obviously, I'm not going to speak for you completely, but I think everyone's situation would get better if you're in a positive relationship with someone, because automatically there's a level of burden that's lifted. Over to you, Victoria.
So for me, I feel like especially when I had my son, I was with his father for a few months after we broke off, and I feel like during that time that was pretty much the contributing factor to our breakup, the fact that financially he was very absent. Physically he was there, but then financially he wasn't, and it just became a bit like it's just draining me now. And there's a difference, you always get those kind of situations where they ask you, so if your partner, was unemployed and everything, how would it be? And I'm like, well, I understand that he's unemployed. He's like, it's difficult for him to financially help, but he was in a full-time job, a very lucrative job. It was very jaw-dropping when it was like, okay, so when are you going to start looking after your son? So I feel like for me, it wouldn't have been any different, because I probably still would have been the one solely financially looking after my son. So it'd just be it would be very draining, it would be very exhausting dealing with that, and also it would just be too much.
See, the thing is, if for example someone was unemployed, your partner, I think that's still okay, because as long as they're compensating in other areas, so like let's just say
absolutely understand.
That's it. Do you know what I mean? Like if you want to be a stay-at-home father, do your thing. Do you know what I mean? But like, let me feel your presence. Let me feel like you're removing weight. Like even if it's financially, if that's what you can do, you're not so great with the bonding. We can work on that. But I think there has to be something you bring to the table besides being physically alive.
What's the point of being there?
The next thing we kind of ish agreed to was mental health being like a biggest factor to how you raise your child, or how it can affect how you raise a child. What have you guys experienced, I guess, over the last X number of years that you feel has fluctuated as a result of being a single parent-ish or a sole parent, however you want to word it?
I feel like my mental health has been a bit of a roller coaster, especially very soon after I gave birth to my son. I had actually had postnatal depression. I was having major difficulty breastfeeding my son, and it was really hard. It really took a toll on me, and it really just made me feel like, God, I was like literally like me and God having a conversation like, God, you gave me these big things, but they're not really serving the purpose. It's only for cosmetic reasons, and for that really just my whole kind of self just dipped, and I suffered major depression, and I hated it, especially when you're looking after a child. You don't want to go through that kind of thing. So how
do you talk yourself out of that mindset?
So I feel like that's one thing I feel like education is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Education really is key. And once I went into studying and I was around people who were very positive spirits, I feel like you really the people who you're surrounded by always dictate the way you will feel, your emotions and stuff. And I feel like I was a great testament to that. I was always surrounded by really positive people when I was there, and from there when I started learning, and my brain started being filled with all this knowledge, I was like, okay, I really need to fix up now and to behave and everything. And there's formula milk and everything, so there's all these substitutes, but still.
But did you also know that you weren't alone when it comes to breastfeeding?
Literally, like when I looked, I was like, oh, so you as well, and you, and literally from there, I felt like a weight was just lifted off my shoulders. Like, okay, it's not just me.
Then you're not hard on yourself.
Yeah, and that's it.
Because the thing is, our parents, I don't know if your parents are similar. My parents are like, it's simple, just latch on. Just relax, it's fine. I'm just like, actually no. My son was born prematurely, so I was in intensive care for a minute, and I watched other parents. I was able to breastfeed, but I watched other parents who were just like, I can't, and I realized there's so many intricate differences.
It's not just
as parents we assume, but then also our first generation above us assume that everything's just normal.
And the midwives, bless them, they were busy, but she's like, just go like this and it's fine. I was like, no, and she's walking off. I'm like, okay, bye. So
No, there's levels to it. So,
exactly.
But well done on like getting yourself out there.
Appreciate it.
What about yourself, Steph? What's been the main sort of feeling?
So I have really bad anxiety, and that's something that's been up and down like my entire life, and it got a lot worse once I had my daughter. So when my anxiety is really, really bad, it has a big effect on how I parent, because my patience is low, my mood is low, and I can feel how that projects onto her because her mood completely changes. But once again, if it wasn't for my support system, when I get like that, someone come take her quickly.
So you're aware.
I know when it's coming. I know when it's there because I have a lot of patience in general. So when I can feel that slipping, or my mood, or I'm always upset, or I don't want to get out of bed, or I'm not eating, I don't want to leave the house, straight away call my mum, call my boyfriend. Look, can you come and take her for a couple of hours? I just need to be by myself, because I know that if she stays there, I'm gonna affect her mood, and that's the last thing I want to do. Let me just be anxious on my own. Let me not spread it to her as well.
Because kids are very smart. They pick up on your energy.
They pick up on your energy straight away.
Even if you try and cover it.
Nope.
They're just like, we see you.
I feel like there's power as well in knowing when, okay, I'm getting to this point, let me just take my child. And I think that's honestly, exactly.
I have to. Because then I have to remember she's a child as well, so she's going to be naughty, and she's going to do stuff, and she's going to drop her cereal on the floor, and on a normal day that'll be like,
you can just
clean it up.
It,
when I'm in that place, like that little cereal on the floor, it's amplified by 100, and I don't want to take out unnecessary anger on her. So it's like, okay, I need a day or two by myself.
It's amazing that you recognise it, and it's amazing that you recognise where your turning point was, and you're just like, alright, cool, like this is not going to do me any good. I think it's easy. Some people unfortunately fall into the trap of like
don't recognise it.
And they don't realise also the damage. I remember my friend used to cry around her daughter all the time, like literally all the time, and I said to her, you can't, because her daughter's like constantly tearful. She's bouncing her mum's energy, and she's always very negative, and she doesn't let anyone come close to her. And I said to her, you got to be mindful. And it took her a very long time to change that. It's like children literally pick up on stuff that even you're not aware of what energy you're putting out. Then like my son's type will be like, are you okay, mum? And I'm like, how do you know? Because I'm smiling. But he picked up on the energy. And I'm similar to you. Anxiety is like a big thing, and I didn't realize I had anxiety until like maybe a year and a half ago. Before that, I used to just have like random feelings, and then once I was reading a post and it broke down what anxiety looks like, I'm like, that's me. I'm like, oh, we have anxiety, and it's fairly common. It's okay. But it took me a while to recognize it, and I think lack of patience is one of them. My mood goes. I'm always on survival mode. Like I'm always. There's no opportunity to dwell. There's no opportunity to like complain. We just get on with it. But then I reach a point where I just hit like I run out of fuel, I guess, and then that's when I kind of go shoop. And I always pray my son's not there, because it just requires. I think it just takes like an overnight sleep. And then I'm back to normal, back to business again. But in that moment, it's like I'm very disabled, and I feel like I can't give my son the energy he deserves. And when I go through like stressful moments, I'm like, it's not fair for him. Like I know I'm trying to do this for him, but then me overstressing about something, or me overthinking, or me becoming anxious is only going to be damaging to him, because he's going to start picking up on my behaviour. But that being said, you can't really control at times how you're feeling.
No, you can't.
You just have to go through the emotions and just ride it out. But I think the ultimate thing is just to protect our children's energy, rather than be like, well, it is what it is. At least, some people hold the excuses thing, like, well, at least it's, I'm not doing this in front of him, or at least I'm not, getting drunk. It's like, Yeah,
but the least should,
we can't compare stories. It is what it is. Everyone's got their own journey. What bit of advice? I think I'm mindful we're coming to an end. But what kind of advice would you guys give to maybe parents who, when it comes, when it comes to looking after their children, like how to find a balance, I guess.
I was gonna say, in terms of mental health and well-being, it's okay to take some time out for yourself, and whether that's going to the park, going to yoga, going out with drink with your girls, whatever it is, it's absolutely okay to do that, and not to feel guilty or selfish that you've gone out to the club for the night or whatever. Like if that's how you release your energy,
then
go for it.
Unapologetically,
because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, like I don't want to drop my kids off and go out and have a night off and get drunk because
you feel guilty.
Yeah.
If that's what you need to do for you, then at the end of the day, you're a human being and you're a parent 24/7. So you need to take, when you go to work, you take breaks. You have your 20-minute breaks. You have your lunch break. When you're a parent, you need your break.
100%.
So take your break
Recharge,
take your break when you need it.
No, I agree.
For me, I feel like the importance of helping, like asking for help, and not feeling like you're always a burden. Like, oh, if I ask this person, then when you do that, that's when I feel like when we were talking about the mental health, that's when when you do have those problems, I feel like in order for you to get better, you have to ask for help, even if it's in the form of, even I know a lot of like our black community always start going and ahhing about the whole idea of counselling or therapy. Even if it takes that, please, even if you know that that's going to help you in the long run for you and your child, it's a no-brainer. That's how I feel anyway. And I feel like
part of that village is that help as well.
Exactly. So so please don't ever be afraid to ask for help, and don't ever feel like you're a burden as well, because at the end of the day, what's more important is not just your well-being but the well-being of your child as well, and it all has a knock-on effect and like a domino effect. So
no, definitely. So I'll probably share the finance side because you guys covered each point quite nicely. Finances is what it is. I think we all go through hardship, we all go through hard times, and I think it's just to remind yourself, finances will always fluctuate. I guess we don't know, the circumstances can change at any point. Is to be humble and know that, okay, have I given a roof to my child? Is their mental well-being okay? Are they happy? Are they even aware of what's going on? I think just protecting the energy regardless of what's happening financially. And again, not being afraid to ask for help. So, family might not be able to give you like £100 or £200 or £1,000, but they might be able to assist you with like shopping or whatever it is that you need. And the reality is there'll come a point where you'll do the same back. But just don't be too hard on yourself, because you can't give them the world like other people can, and try not to compare yourself to anyone else, because the minute you start comparing, like, so my guy has like an electric scooter and he has this and he has this, then already you're putting yourself down. And I think those things are they're just materialistic things. It's more about what you're feeding their soul. And I think, financially, we don't need that much money, but we would like to, if possible. I felt like I was making an offering there. We would like to. So if you don't want to give us money,
below you're going to see our GoFundMe.
But on that note, we've come to the end. Make sure you follow the Parentcast Hub on. Do you know it?
On Instagram. What?
Yeah.
at Parentcast _ hub.
But yes, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye. Hi guys, welcome to Parentcast. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Javan.
And I'm Victory.
And the question today is, what is the most challenging part about being a parent?